Tonight on Ukraine Today, a step closer to peace? What did the Americans and the Russians agree on in Moscow, and what exactly are the United States trying to achieve? Russia says it's ready to fight Europe, what Putin claims about Europe's efforts to end the war. Powerful blasts inside Russia. Ukrainian drones hit an oil refinery and fuel tanks, and now there's information about an explosion on the Druzhba oil pipeline. The battlefield update. Ukraine's general staff denied the Kremlin statements about taking Pokrovsk, Vovchansk and Kupiansk. So what is happening on the front line? All that and more right now. Hello, I'm Volodymyr Rabchun and this is Ukraine Today. Please subscribe, hit the like button. Let's get to the news. We start with a series of powerful explosions inside Russia. Ukrainian drones attacked the Tambov Nefteprodukt oil refinery and also fuel tanks in the Voronezh region. Moreover, there's now information about an explosion on the Druzhba oil pipeline. Just this year alone, it has been targeted at least 4 times. Overall, the last days have been especially hot for the occupiers. There's even a suspicion that Moscow should maybe get ready for a blackout. More details ahead.
Russia is in flames and darkness. There's a blackout in the Moscow region. Dozens of residential buildings have been left without power.
There's no power at all there. There's something lit up in one window, but here, not a single one.
Total darkness. Russians are sitting not for the first time. A month ago, there was a massive power outage in the Moscow region. Well, the good drones did a thorough job, although the occupation authorities, of course, deny it.
Essentially, this is a gradual disconnection of Moscow from the power supply. This won't happen today or tomorrow or even in a week. Maybe, unfortunately, not even by New Year's. But considering that Ukraine is scaling up its raids across the Russian Federation, just look at how many Ukrainian drones are now flying into Russian territory. There was nothing like this in 2022 or 2023, and not in 2024 either. But
now it's already good morning in the Krasnodar region. Local residents are reporting explosions in Tuapse. The Ilsky oil refinery and one of the local ports may have been hit.
The vast, expansive, rugged West. What
is it? And at night, drones also set the oil depot in Oriel region on fire.
Now, even the massive chemical plant is intensely burning. I truly don't know what exactly that is. Oh, really, this is quite concerning.
See, it's blazing. And this is the standard way to start the day or end the evening in Russia. What once seemed very far away is becoming more and more realistic.
the year 2025. This is a record year for the number of drone strikes on the territory of the Russian Federation. In addition to drones, missiles are now starting to arrive as well. These include small-sized missiles like the Peklo, as well as, for example, the long-range Neptune, the extended Neptune DM. There are also Flamingo missiles.
Chechnya has also come under the crosshairs of UAVs. Local residents report that as a result of the attack, the FSB building was damaged and a unit base was also shelled. Akhmat in Budermes.
This is a certain and specific element, a powerful force element, which consistently plays its significant role and firmly occupies its designated place within the complex Russian hierarchy, and not the last one either. Destruction, humiliation, devastation, this is very important specifically for this direction. We will find each and every one of them. And this is a very important message, so that every Kadyrovite who came to Ukraine understands that one way or another we find Russian generals, eliminate them, blow them up. An ordinary Kadyrovite will simply be smeared against the wall by another drone. And we'll even send him a package from Nova Poshta with a piece of salo.
Let us recall that on the night of November 25th, Ukraine attacked the Boriv aircraft repair plant in Taganrog, which is capable of modernizing and servicing two 95 MS aircraft. As a result, the occupiers lost the ability to further operate this aviation. The strike destroyed two aircraft, the A-60 and the A-100LL.
Truly unique aircraft were destroyed in Taganrog, ones that Russia will never be able to produce again. Moreover, these planes were originally built back in the Soviet Union era. The A-60 was a long-term project that was supposed to be a flying laser weapon. It was meant to be a kind of threat to the American space program. But it was never brought to any kind of operational state. The destruction of this aircraft essentially puts an end to the entire aviation laser program of the Russian Federation. As of today, with the destruction of the A-100LL aircraft, Russia simply loses the ability to continue these testing phases or to create anything new. Although, to be honest, the A-100, the new generation of the A-50, was already technically and technologically outdated compared to its Western counterparts.
This is just a small part of where lately UAVs have been flying in, striking military and critical infrastructure targets on Russian territory. Of course, after every attack, the Russian Ministry of Defense reports that most of the UAVs were shot down. But for some reason, after the phrase "all targets have been eliminated," dozens of videos showing fires appear in Russian Telegram channels. The reason is obvious: poor air defense performance.
Russia has always had problems with air defense. The Soviet Union did not completely. Sealed off the airspace. The Soviet Union always had far more capabilities in this regard. As a direct and significant result, Russia inherited a truly vast territory, a very large and extensive airspace with many significant blind spots and numerous gaps, through which, of course, various strike assets can readily and easily fly.
Automated control systems have already brought a blackout closer in the southern part of Russia, so Putin's capital could also soon be plunged into complete darkness.
Over the past 24 hours, Russia lost at least 1,200 occupiers, killed and wounded. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, that's now 1,176,230 invaders. Also, in the last 24 hours, Ukraine's defense forces destroyed 6 Russian tanks, 3 armored fighting vehicles, 12 artillery systems and dozens of other pieces of Russian military equipment. Ukraine's general staff denied Kremlin's claims about capturing Pokrovsk, Vovchansk and Kupiansk. Our forces are holding the line, while the invaders used the so-called flag-sticking tactic, when small enemy groups slipped into a settlement, put up a Russian flag, film it and call it a victory. These groups don't live long, but the propaganda picture gets made. More details about what's happening on the front line in our military report.
On the eve of the visit by US President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff, the Kremlin dictator, on the first day of winter, Putin allegedly visited one of the Russian army's command posts and announced his intention to create a security zone along the border with Ukraine in the area of responsibility of the North Group.
Putin doesn't know, Russians don't know. Where is Vovchansk here? This is Kupiansk and Vovchansk. This is one city, or different ones. And Pokrovsk. Komsomolsky, Krasnogvarsk. Is it the same or different? No, they don't care. Vitkov was told that we would now take Pokrovsk and Kupiansk. At the meeting with the American delegation, our military came and said, here's the map, look, this is Pokrovsk, this is Kupiansk. No way, they lied to you. He comes to Moscow and Putin tells him, sorry brother, well, not Kupiansk, Vovchansk, but we took it.
The chief of the general staff of the occupying army, Valery Gerasimov, reported to Putin about the alleged liberation of the city of Krasnoarmysk. This is what Russians call the Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk and Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region. This information has already been refuted by the Ukrainian side.
We can say that Putin wants to show a victorious victory that, in reality, does not exist. Since he lied about Russian troops capturing Pokrovsk, he keeps lying all the time. As for Kupiansk, where the situation is actually unfolding not in favor of the Russian army, and this should be especially noted, we are driving the enemy out of that city. Why did he claim that Pokrovsk was taken, that Pokrovsk was captured? Because what happened there was yet another flag planting operation under the cover of fog. The Russian troops planted their flag there, took a photo of it, posted it on social media, and basically this information made its way up and gave Putin grounds to claim that Pokrovsk had been captured. Later, of course, the flag was taken down, but as they say, the information had already spread.
The occupiers also made a statement about an offensive in the Dnipropetrovsk region and the start of an operation to liberate Hulyapol.
In response to our reinforcement in the north, the enemy is deploying additional reserves. Obviously, the brigades they are deploying now are the ones that were supposed to be in the second echelon to build on their success. This means their reserves are not unlimited.
According to Deep State, the Russian army has advanced in Pokrovsk and near Mirnohrad. There was also a breakthrough in Stepnohirsk on the Zaporizhzhia front. Yesterday, the head of the Russian General Staff, Gerasimov, claimed that Stepnohirsk was encircled.
I understand that Putin is constantly being misinformed by his own generals about the real situation. They embellish the situation on the front lines. They seize territories on credit, but then it turns out that the enemy is already launching counterattacks, trying to make reality fit the reports.
Upon returning to the Kremlin, Putin demonstratively held another meeting with the governor of the Kursk region. They discussed people displaced from the border regions of the Kursk region.
Such disinformation, of course, could be tied to Vitov's visit. Of course, this will be fed into his ear. I'm very afraid that this will then make its way to Washington and result in yet another round of pressure on Ukraine. As if to say, you'll soon lose everything anyway. Donbas, since Putin has taken Pokrovsk in quotes, taken Kupiansk in quotes, and you will continue to lose territory further on. So go along with the terms of the peace agreement being offered to you, because it will only get worse later.
Despite the lull in the information space, actual fighting continues in the Sumy direction.
The scale of the confrontation there is smaller because the Russians have redeployed their main forces to those same marine brigades. They need them badly near Pokrovsk and in the Kostiantynivka direction. But we too have been forced to reduce the number of our forces.
In Kherson, the Russian army is still fighting against the civilian population. There, the occupiers hunt down every unarmed person who can't escape from a drone or a KAB bomb.
Ukraine is fighting for freedom. Support independent Ukrainian journalism so we can keep telling the truth about Russia's war. Click the link in the description to become our sponsor. Now's the perfect moment to subscribe, like this video and share it. Please do it right now. Thank you and glory to Ukraine. The occupiers attacked the Dnipropetrovsk region with drones. 2 men were killed and 3 more people were injured. Enemy forces also targeted energy facilities in several regions of Ukraine. As a result, parts of Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions remain without power. Emergency repair work is ongoing. In Moscow, there was a meeting between Trump's special envoy Vitkov, US presidential advisor Kushner, and the dictator Putin. The Americans presented updated parameters of the peace plan after talks with Ukraine in Florida. More about what led to this meeting and how Vitkov and Kushner were greeted in our story.
The Americans have visited Russia again. They were met at Vnukovo by Putin's special representative Kirill Dmitriev. The Kremlin is preparing to push its own version of a peace plan for Ukraine.
There is a process underway. The process is a serious one. Just now, Putin said that he would inform Lukashenko about how things stand on this track. Right now, there is probably nothing more important than this. Of course, there will be many people who won't shy away from anything to disrupt this process.
The day before, Stephen Witkoff took part in a meeting between the American delegation and representatives of Ukraine in Florida.
We don't just want to simply end this devastating war. We also profoundly want to help Ukraine achieve enduring and robust security so that it never ever has to face another brutal invasion again in the future. The negotiations were productive, but more work is still needed.
Some progress was noted, however, no concrete agreements were reached.
We are already halfway to ensuring Ukraine's independence. Today we made significant progress. Russia must become part of the equation for a Ukrainian settlement. For this, Witkoff will travel to Moscow.
American journalists are speculating that this time Trump has sent an unusual team of negotiators to Russia, Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
While the Trump administration is hastily seeking to conclude a comprehensive peace agreement to effectively end the protracted war in Ukraine, President Donald Trump is indeed sending 2 of his most senior and experienced diplomats to Moscow. They are his former business partner and his son-in-law, and neither of them has been confirmed by Senate lawmakers.
Rumor has it in the White House that with this move, Trump is showing his preference for personal diplomacy over bureaucracy. The US president believes that it is Witkoff and Kushner who are supposedly capable of closing the deal.
Since the Moscow authorities are justifiably proud of what they have accomplished for the development of the capital in recent times.
Who is the negotiator on the Russian side? Putin himself spoke about this.
when we actually sit down at the negotiating table and begin to seriously and specifically discuss each of the proposed points for discussion. On our side, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is involved, and from the administration, it's Vladimir Rostislavovich Medinsky, the presidential aide. He has been handling this from the very beginning. That's right. Well, regarding current matters, in order to organize all this work, I have also involved my aide, Yuri Viktorovich Ushakov. He is in contact with his American counterparts, but he can't do all of this alone. This is something the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should handle, and partly the presidential administration as well. It's a very large set of issues that need to be discussed, documented, properly formulated, and all the details need to be clarified.
At the press conference, the Kremlin dictator stated that one of the key topics would be the status of Crimea and Donbass. Then he got even more inspired and blurted out, "The Russian Federation is ready to go to war with Europe."
We are not planning to go to war with Europe. I've already said this 100 times. But if Europe suddenly wants to fight us and starts, we are ready right now.
Before Witkov's negotiations in Moscow about the peace plan, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the issue of territories is the most difficult one.
I'll be frank, the territorial issue is the most difficult one. The issue of money and reconstruction, in my opinion, and I'm being honest, without the presence of European partners, is certainly not easy to resolve because the money is in Europe. I don't think that's very fair. And the issue of security guarantees, which is very important. Specifics from the US, specifics from Europe.
According to media reports, the initial version of the plan, which consisted of 28 points, mentioned recognizing Ukrainian territory as belonging to Russia and the possibility of withdrawing the Ukrainian armed forces even from those parts of Donetsk region that the occupiers had not managed to seize. Ukraine has repeatedly called this unacceptable. European allies of Ukraine have also opposed such steps. The visit of the American envoys to discuss peace is already the sixth one. The previous visit was at the end of summer. At that time, the meeting took place against the backdrop of an ultimatum that Donald Trump issued to the Kremlin. Disappointed by the lack of progress in resolving the war in Ukraine, the head of the White House first gave Putin 50 days, then 10, to reach a ceasefire.
We have truly concurred on serious security guarantees, which I would describe as truly game-changing in a significant way. We never thought we would get so close to an agreement on Article 5 protection from the United States, or to a legislative commitment in the RSF not to encroach on other territories after the peace agreement is codified. So we have reached an agreement, and that's not all.
Since then, nothing has changed except for the tightening of sanctions. Putin has determined to relentlessly continue his bloody and brutal war in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine.
Axios journalist Barak Ravid wrote that after Moscow, Witkov and Kushner will head to Europe to meet with the Ukrainian president. We'll come back to Zelensky, but for now, the obvious question is, what exactly did the Americans agree on with the Russians? The answer seems to come from Putin's aide, Yuri Ushakov.
Still, no compromise option has been found yet, but some of the American proposals look more or less acceptable. But they need to be discussed. Some of the wording we were offered does not suit us, so the work will continue. And this is truly one of the most important issues.
So the most important thing, that's about territories. What does this tell us? The result of the talks is basically an agreement to keep talking. No specifics at all. Pure fog. Our conclusion: Moscow is deliberately dragging things out. And what exactly are the United States trying to achieve from this process? The answer came from US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in his interview with Fox News.
And so what we have tried to do, and I think have made some progress, is figure out what can the Ukrainians live with that gives them security guarantees for the future, they're never going to be invaded again, allows them not just to rebuild their economy, but to prosper as a country, be a country that has an economy that grows, theoretically, doing the right things. In 10 years, Ukraine's GDP could be larger than Russia's. These are the kinds of things. Stop the war, make sure they never get invaded or attacked again, protect Ukraine's long-standing and long-term sovereignty and independence so that they don't become a puppet state. They're actually independent and sovereign, and allow their economy not just to recover, but to prosper and turn it into a story of prosperity. That's what we're trying to achieve here.
The US plans to return frozen Russian assets after a peace deal. That's what Political reports. According to the outlet, American officials told the EU about this back in the summer. Meanwhile, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen still insist on using those funds to support Ukraine. But Belgium, who is suspected by the EU of inappropriate use of frozen Russian assets, continues to block the process. Meanwhile, Putin is threatening Europe. He says Russia does not intend to fight European countries, but if Europe starts a war, Russia is ready. According to him, Europe is preventing the Trump administration from achieving peace and is making proposals in a plan about Ukraine that are unacceptable to Russia. But considering that Russia refuses a ceasefire, it is Russia and only Russia that prevents the Trump administration from achieving peace. And it's also not a plan about Ukraine, it's a plan about ending Russia's war against Ukraine. Russia is aggressor. Ukraine is defending itself. But Putin blames Europe for everything and paints a picture where Ukraine is some kind of NPC, whose fate is decided by others. And here's the danger. These empty accusations can be used by a dictator to justify future Russian aggression against Europe. So yes, this can be taken as a direct threat. Putin also commented on the situation with tankers of Russia's Shadow Fleet in the Black Sea. Let me remind you what this is about, and then the statement of the war criminal himself.
It seems that the Black Sea is no longer safe for Russian ships. Another tanker from Russia's so-called Shadow Fleet was attacked 80 miles off the coast of Turkey. The Medvolga 2 was on a voyage from Russia to Georgia. There were 13 crew members on board, and according to Ankara, no one was injured. According to Turkey's Ministry of Transport, the damaged but still operational Medvolga 2 is now heading towards Sinop and is not requesting assistance. The tanker Medvolga 2 reported that it was attacked 80 miles off our coast while en route from Russia to Georgia carrying a cargo of sunflower oil. The Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure of Turkey. Built in 2014, the 140-meter-long Medvolga 2 sails under the Russian flag and belongs to the Srednevolzhskaya shipping company. Its route, Russia-Georgia, is a typical direction for transporting agricultural products and petroleum products, which means that such a vessel automatically falls under increased scrutiny, both from Ukraine and from international organizations monitoring possible schemes to circumvent oil sanctions. This attack became yet another link in the explosive series targeting the Russian Shadow Fleet. Just recently, on the other side of the Atlantic near Dakar in Senegal, the oil tanker Mersin, carrying a cargo of diesel fuel, was subjected to 4 external explosions. It is known that in August of this year, the vessel visited the Russian port of Taman and previously had repeatedly called at the port of Novorossiysk. Previously, 2 other Russian tankers under sanctions, Kera and Verad, were struck in the Black Sea by naval drones as part of a joint operation by the Security Service and the naval forces of Ukraine. The Security Service of Ukraine continues active measures to cut off Russia's financial ability to wage war against Ukraine. The Sea Baby naval drones disabled vessels that could have transported nearly 70 million worth of oil and helped the Kremlin circumvent international sanctions, a source in the Security Service of Ukraine noted. These vessels are also part of the so-called Shadow Fleet of the aggressor country and were used to bypass international sanctions. According to Ukrainian sources, both tankers sustained critical damage and have effectively been put out of operation.
This is Mossad's tactic. Some were sunk, and the others will think 150 times before acting. That's exactly how it should be, I assure you. Until the same happens in the Baltic Sea, no one in Europe will take it seriously. I think it would be very appropriate to do this, for example, close to the territorial waters of Poland and the Baltic states. These people definitely won't notice anything, they'll just turn a blind eye and say, someone was sailing there, no, we didn't see anything, we don't know, and so on. Ideally, we should be sinking them everywhere, if we have the technical capability, in Vladivostok and all along the line here, so that they understand there needs to be pressure. Without sinking these ships, nothing will happen. Otherwise, no one will understand that things are serious. That's exactly how we need to act, so that once and for all they remember, you can't mess with Ukraine.
The attacks, which took place just a few dozen nautical miles from the Turkish coast, provoked a sharp reaction from Ankara. Turkish President Recep Erdogan called these events a troubling escalation of the situation.
The war between Russia and Ukraine clearly threatens the safety of shipping in the Black Sea. On Friday, a troubling escalation occurred in our exclusive economic zone when merchant ships were attacked. In particular, we cannot in any way justify these attacks, which threaten the safety of navigation, human lives, and the environment in our exclusive zone.
As we can see, the Russian shadow fleet can no longer feel safe anywhere. The strikes by Ukrainian naval drones, as well as the high-profile attacks on tankers, show that the Kremlin is losing its freedom of maneuver at sea, and every destroyed or disabled tanker is not only a financial blow to Moscow, but also a serious blow to the ego of the Russian Tsar. But that's not all. At the same time, Kyiv is striking at the rear of Mother Russia. In November, the armed forces of Ukraine attacked Russian oil refineries with drones at least 14 times. According to Bloomberg, this is a record number of strikes on Russia's strategic oil infrastructure for the entire duration of the full-scale war.
So, according to dictator, Russia may increase strikes on Ukrainian ports. First, the shadow fleet is illegal, but Putin somehow forgets this part. Second, with tanker attacks or without them, Russia will increase its strikes on Ukraine whenever it has the opportunity. And finally, about the official visit of the President of Ukraine to Ireland. The President spoke in Parliament, thanked the country for its support, and said the peace is now closer than ever. Earlier, he shared a few details about the peace plan.
There are now 20 points that were worked out in Geneva and then refined in Florida. Some things still need more work, from what I've seen. America is taking serious steps to end the war one way or another, and our task, and I'm sure it's our common task for everyone in Europe, is to truly end the war, not just get a pause in the fighting. We need a just peace. And for this to really happen, everyone has to be on the side of peace, everyone in Europe and all nations who value peace.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your support. Strength to Ukraine's defenders. Glory to Ukraine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and share. See you next time.